I never really heard of anyone talking about walking away from God because of exhaustion or unanswered prayers. And maybe you didn't walk away from Him completely, but you kind of just stopped believing that He can change you or the environment that you are in. And today we're going to talk all about it. Hey Bestie, welcome back to Blissful-Faith, where we learn how to walk hand in hand with our bestie forever, Jesus Christ. My name is Devin Janae, and we've been in a series called From Survival to Surrender. And this is for the woman who is tired of just surviving life, okay? And it's for the woman who's ready to finally thrive in Christ like she was always meant to. Last week we talked about prayer, and today we're talking through something that many of us have probably went through or will go through, which is running from God. So let's start with different reasons why we might run from God. And the very first reason on my list is survival mode. Because being in survival mode is just tough. Let's just put it out there. And if you've been in survival mode for a very long time, you kind of get to the point of avoidance. You want to avoid any and everything that might require extra energy from you. Because sometimes you just don't have any energy left to give. And you might be like me. Because I got to a point where I started seeing God as work, more work to do. You know, the praying, the fasting, the reading the Bible. All of that seemed like it was work instead of rest. Like you might know that God says He's going to give you rest, but in your mind, you could be like, dang, I still do got to go to Him. I still do got to pray. I still do have to, read the Bible. And that can honestly shut you down. It could shut you down to the point where I'm just gonna go watch the video. I'm just gonna go get on TikTok. I'm just gonna go scroll on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media, or I'm gonna just go binge watch a show. I'm gonna go and do something to decompress because I feel like I'm already struggling with all my emotions. I'm struggling at the job that I'm on, that God even got me. I'm struggling in my family. I'm struggling with my friends. And it just compiles into a lot. And you start to really look at God as more work instead of rest. And if that's you, that's the first, reason or the first person we talking about today. That might be where you are. Or maybe, bestie, you're someone who is just tired overall. Like, it's not necessarily that you look at God as more work, but you just tired. Like, you tired of believing. You tired of life. You tired of waiting. And you're just tired and you're just like, I don't know. I had enough of this. Why am I even here, God? Why am I always, waiting? And why am I always feeling crazy? Why am I really here? Like, you're wondering, what's the point of all of this? Is life just surviving, going to work, paying bills? And if you don't have a job, really it's just like a bunch of, emptiness. If you don't know what God has called you to do, it can really feel like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do this, God? Like, what did you create me for? You get to that point asking, what is this? What is the point? What's the point of all of this? Or you might be somebody who, you might be somebody who feels like, God, why every time something hurtful happens, it seems like you just fall away. Like, you're here when I ask you to help me to do something. You here when we're reading our word together. But as soon as I have pain, or I felt a way about what somebody said or did, and you tell me to come to you, it seems like you just fall away from you. Am I missing something? How come it feel like you ignoring me when I need you the most? Or you might be somebody, who went through something devastating, and you just like, okay, God, why didn't you protect me from this? Why did you allow this to happen? You're supposed to be a good God. And I really don't see anything good out of this. Like, how could you love me and this happen? How? Like, I'm not putting two and two together. And besties, all of these are reasons why many women just walk away, including unanswered prayers. And for me, it was the unanswered prayer. Okay? And I'm going to tell you a few, truths from my own life. And maybe you could relate to something that I'm saying. I don't know if it's going to hit for you. I don't know if, any of these have been you. But I just want to share in case somebody needs it. And so that you don't feel alone. Like, because a lot of us can feel alone in what we go through, and we're really not. And if I cry, don't mind me, bestie, because I am very much a sensitive person, okay? So for me, running from God came mostly through the avoidance and the neglect. And when I say avoiding him, I mean feeling like he's work and also neglecting myself. And I realized the reason why I rejected myself or neglected myself is because of all the sexual abuse that I went through. Not feeling safe around, the people that said that they love me. I was kind of left to deal with all of the stuff that happened to me as a little girl by myself. And it happened multiple times. And on top of that, I was getting rejected from my parents. They didn't really talk to me, And I kind of formed this belief of, well, maybe I don't matter. Maybe I am nothing. And then someone said that out loud to me. And I didn't figure any of this out on my own. It took me, going to God several times. Just going to him, talking to him, and asking him about different things for him to finally reveal, why I act the way that I act and why I feel this way about him and also myself. Because, listen, the way we treat ourselves is a direct reflection of how we see ourselves and how we see God, because we belong to God. And we don't always correlate that. We don't always think of ourselves as an extension of God. So it's not selfish to give yourself care. It's not selfish to pay attention to yourself. And a lot of us, we neglect ourselves. We don't feed ourselves nourishing foods. We don't take the time to exercise. We don't take the time to read our word and really see what he's telling us. We don't take the time to pray. We don't take the time to deal with our mental, emotional health. And all of that is a product of how we see ourselves, but more importantly, how we see him, because we are a product of him. We are his. We are his. And just, being able to, listen long enough for him to reveal it to me, I'm not going to lie. I started resenting him. I started resenting him because I felt like this. I was just like, God, I've been through a lot. And all I ever wanted was to feel loved. All I ever wanted was to be wanted. All I ever wanted was to be defended, for someone to stand up for me. And I'm coming to you about things, and you're not taking me out the situation. You keeping me in it. So how come you didn't rescue me? How come you didn't stand up for me? How come you still got me near the same people who abused me and act like it didn't happen? How come if I'm going to be alone physically and feel like all this weight is on me, how come we can't just go and be by ourselves for real? You still have me around the same people that hurt me. And I get the duality of things. Like, you want to use it for your glory, but how long am I supposed to walk around the same mountain? Like, because it's not like things are not still happening. Things are still happening, and I'm still coming to you, still trying to ask you to give me the strength or help me to know you. I need your mercy. I need your grace. I need you. Even though what I really want, I tell you what I really want. God, I'm honest with you. Like, why aren't you moving me somewhere else to move me? I mean, why aren't you moving me somewhere else to heal me? Amen. And yeah, I started to, avoid him because it was just a lot. Like, I started trying to distract myself, mentally escape, since I'm physically in the same place, and nothing worked because of the awareness. Like, that's what it really was. It was the awareness. Like, the awareness that God is the one who shined the light on this. Like, he's the reason why I even know why I felt less than for so long. So, like, running from him is only hurting me. And it's only, prolonging the pain. Because without him, how in the world am I going to heal? And that's a question that I really want you to ask yourself. Like, if I'm walking, like, really sit down and ask yourself, like, if I'm running from the only one who can heal me, then how in the world am I going to get healing? Because if he's the one that is the healer, that means nothing and no one else can actually do what I was about to say design, but that's not the right word. He's not designed to do it because he's the creator. The one who is, right? I don't know, like, running from God for you could either look slightly similar or it could look drastically, different. But I will tell you that whatever the reason, and I am very uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. But whatever the reason that you ran from God is valid. And God understands, and he has such compassion for you. And that word compassion is a beautiful word because the word compassion doesn't just mean that he sees you. The word compassion means that he understands exactly what you're going through. He understands and he's in it with you. Like, he doesn't look at you and say, oh, you on your own. And a lot of us could feel like that. A lot of us could feel like, dang, I'm in this by myself. But the God who is compassionate is truly in it with us, even though we feel like we're alone, even though we're physically alone. He is the God who has compassion on us, compassion for us. He is compassionate. His word says that he's slow to anger and full of compassion, abounding in steadfast love. So even in your anger towards him, your resentment towards him, your confusion, all the survival mode and the chaos, running from God could be several different things. And you could run from God several different ways, even in ways that I didn't even name. And like, maybe you believe in him, but you just stop believing that he can change you in the location. And I know that's me. Like, the reason why I probably am still in certain situations is because I'm not believing that God could be God even in this place. I'm not believing that God could be God wherever I am. And I don't know. You could be, overworking or procrastinating, because that's another way we run from God, trying to distract ourselves from different things, our thoughts, and, numbing ourselves with like food because things are just painful. We've been carrying it for so long. And then when you really start the healing process, all of that stuff resurfaces resurface, and then you got to deal with every single feeling. And, a lot of us are not taught how to deal with feelings, right? And you might start blaming God. Or you could be going the opposite way, like Jonah. And I want us to read some of that today, too, by the way. Or you might be watching adult content because you just... Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. When you are flagrantly fouled sexually as a child, as a teenager, even as an adult, something in you is woken up that shouldn't have been woken up. So if you have been going to that adult content to just quench whatever it is that is awakened in you, or you went searching for love or passion or anything, you're just trying to feel whatever that was, trying to get that off you, and that's the only thing you know to do. Just know that God sees you and knows you, but that is hurting you more than it's helping you. It may feel like it's helping you, but you also know how you feel after that. You also know that this isn't something that God designed, right? And it's not, this is, trust and believe, this is not trying to say you dirty or you wrong. This is saying that there is a better way, because I know what that is like, and I struggle. Okay, I do. When you are rejected and abandoned by those closest to you, a lot of women, they find themselves in a couple different things. They'll find themselves trying to fill that void in relationships. They'll try to fill that void through food. They'll try to fill that void through pornography. Or they'll try to fill that void through even church and working for God. It could be anything. Anything. But God is coming to show us we don't have to run no more. And just to, segue, because I feel like this is the perfect time. Let's go to the word together. We're going to read the parable of the Prodigal Son. It's in Luke 15, and it is 11 through 31. And then we're going to read Jonah 4 together. And I want us to pay close attention, not to the brothers, not to anything that's happening apart from God. I want us to pay close attention to the Father, who represents God in this parable. And then when we go to Jonah, I also want us to pay attention to God in Jonah. Okay, so I'm going to read it. This is the parable of the lost son, also known as the prodigal son. So it says, I'm reading from the NIV version, but it says, Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son, got together all he had, set out for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. Let me get a pen to follow along. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine who was dead is alive again. He was lost and is now found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. And he said, Your brother has come. He replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has made it back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes come home, you killed the fattened calf for him? My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad because your brother, this brother of yours, was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now he's found. So I want us to go back to verse. First of all, let's talk about the father in verse 11. When the son had asked for his share, the father gave it to him. And he didn't just give it to the younger son. He divided the property between both of the sons. Right? He was fair with both of the sons. The older son didn't even ask for it, but the father said, I'm going to give it to you too. When the son left, the father began to fatten that calf. And we know this because it says the fattened calf. That means that they were intentionally making that calf fat. Right? And it's a beautiful thing because that just tells us that the father was preparing for the son's return. It says, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Then the son said, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. And the father told his servants to bring the robe, put it on him, put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it. We're going to have a celebration. So when it says, but while he was still a far way off, his father saw him. The son didn't see the father saw him and was filled with compassion. I just want to look up that word compassion right quick and get the proper definition of compassion. Give me 1 second. The proper definition of compassion, just from the AI overview, it says compassion is the emotional and behavioral response that arises when we recognize suffering in ourselves or in others and feel genuinely moved to alleviate it. It goes beyond empathy by adding a strong motivation to help or to care. So the father was filled with compassion, filled with the genuine feeling to care for his son. And it says, but he was still a far way off. And one of God's scriptures says, return to me and I will return to you, right? So when I read this is what I heard in my mind. even when you've been running from me and you think of me, you think of returning, I'm already running back to you. I'm already coming back to you with all the love, all the care, and everything else that you need, because it's all in me. So that just tells us, like, when we run from God and we just think about returning to him, we just think about him, he's already there. Matter of fact, it's him pursuing us. He's the reason why we think the way we're thinking, because he's drawing us back to him. And I just want to say one more thing on this. The way the Father was between both of the sons, because we're not identifying ourselves in this, but the older brother was there and he was angry and he didn't want to go in and celebrate his brother. But it shows in this parable, the father was out pleading with him. He went out there and pleaded with him. The father didn't have to do that. The father could have been like, oh, he mad. That's on him. But it just shows us how God doesn't leave any of us out. So no matter if you were running from God, or you're mad at him, you're resenting him, you're confused, it don't matter, because it don't matter what it is, I'm saying, because God has room for that too. He didn't have to go out and plead with the oldest son. He didn't even have to listen to what the oldest son said. He didn't have to get him to try to see from his point of view, but he took the time to do that. And I want to go to Jonah now. And with this parable, I did create a workbook for episode 2, and I'm going to put in a link in the description below, and it goes more into depth on the parable of the lost son, where you actually start to see yourself in the younger brother or the older brother. So get it in the link in the description down below. I never can say that right, but it's in your workbook that I put down below. But let's go to Jonah 4. Okay. It says, Jonah 4, again I'm reading NIV. It says, let me get my pen. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong. I'm going to give you context if you never read the book of Jonah, or even if you have read the book of Jonah, I'm going to give you context still. So what happened was, God called Jonah to go to a place called Nineveh to tell them that God was getting ready to destroy the land. And Jonah was like, you know what? No, because you are a loving God. You are compassionate. They turn. You're not going to destroy them. You're going to go back on what you had said. So Jonah said, okay, no, I'm going to Tarshish. So he ran to Tarshish. All this stuff happened. He ended up in the belly of a fish, a big large fish. And then he prayed to God. The fish spit him out. And then he went to Nineveh. He preached. He went a 3-day journey into Nineveh, preached that God was going to destroy the place. And I think it was the king. Was it the king? Let me look. So it didn't say I don't think it was the king. Yeah, the king of Nineveh. It was the king. So the king of Nineveh had ended up proclaiming a fast. The Ninevites ended up proclaiming a fast, 40 days, 40 nights, I believe it was. And I don't think it was 40 days, 40 nights. 40 more days, that's when Nineveh will be overthrown and destroyed. So what happened was, they ended up going on a fast. I don't know if it was 40 days or 40 nights. I said that, but 40 days it was going to be destroyed. And instead of, allowing it to be destroyed, they believed God, and they, had that fast. And God saw that they fasted and they turned their face towards him. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to destroy them like I threatened. And that's where it picked up and says, but to Jonah this seemed very wrong. He became angry. He prayed to the Lord. Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? This is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sin and calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live. But the Lord replied, I had a little hair or something on my nose. But the Lord replied, is it right for you to be angry? Jonah had gone out and sat down at the place. Y'all ever get like hair like on your face? That's just aggravating. But don't mind me, Bestie. We on the phone. We on FaceTime. There he made himself a shelter and sat in its shade and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a leafy plant and made it grow over Jonah to give shade for his head to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die, and he said, it would be better for me to die than to live. But God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plant? It is, he said, and I'm so angry that I wish I was dead. But the Lord said, you have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend to it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died up overnight. And should I have not had concern for a great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their left hand from their right, and also many animals? So this just shows us the compassion that God has for us. It says that he is a gracious, compassionate God who is slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sin and calamity. And my favorite scripture, y'all, is 2 Peter 3:9, and it says, God is not slow to his promise as some may think, but he is patient for all of our sake because he doesn't want any of us to perish. And the thing about God is he is gracious with us. He is compassionate with us because anybody else would have threw us away. We have to admit that. This is a dog eat dog world out here. People don't care if you mad at them, if you resent them, if you confused about what they did. But God is so loving, so gracious, so kind, so compassionate that he wants not to explain himself to us, but he wants us to get to know him. Get to know that, the scripture that we say all the time, things are going to turn out for my good. All things work together for our good, for those who are loved and called according to his purpose. He wants to actually show that that is true, even when we don't understand. Because I learned something that was so profound. Someone said, it was Dr. Darius Daniels, he quoted someone else actually. He was like, life is learned backwards. Life is understood backwards, rather. And what he meant was like, you could be going through something and you could be in total confusion. But when it's like a couple of years later, God will reveal like, that's why I had to go through that. You ever been through that? Like, wow, that's why I went through that. So even in your running from God, this can be turned out for the good. Because it could be a lesson in disguise. It could be God saying, you know what? Now I get to really show her who I am. And he's been drawing you back for so long. Okay? Even the people who have been with him, going to church, attending the Bible study, and your word for yourself, but not really with him. You know what I'm saying? All of this can turn out for the good, but you have to allow him to turn it. We can't just expect things to turn if we're not walking in his ways. Right? So now, let's talk about how to actually come back to God. Let's talk about that. So this is a practice that is very slow and it's effective. It's slow because a lot of us are in survival mode. That's why we're in this series, because we're going from survival to surrender, and this is only episode 2. And a lot of God's daughters have dysregulated nervous systems. We're always in a state of fight or flight. And God, within our lives, whatever season we're in, He's trying to get us, like, I'm going to just use the word stable. Stable in Him. Because if you really think about all the stuff that happened in this word with different people and them obeying God, their nervous systems has to be regulated, because ain't no way Mary about to have a baby in a manger knowing that this is God's son. Like, she not about, like, I'm not doing that. I'm not about to have my baby in no manger. I'm about to look for the best, especially if I know who He is. But Mary obeyed. There wasn't nowhere else for her to go. So she was like, we're going to have this baby in the manger. Okay? Who else? David. David had to have a regulated nervous system at some point because he trusted in God. Yeah, he was going up and down all the time. But where it counted, you know how you can have, well, I don't know. This hasn't happened for me yet, but I've seen people say that they had regulated nervous systems in relationships around certain people. They just felt very calm. No, it did happen for me with a therapist. My nervous system felt very calm with her. I didn't feel like I had to like run, like even in that type of environment, because it's, you know, in therapy you really getting stuff out, and it's like it could be it really does put you in a place of like, man, I'm so used to running, I'm ready to run. But no, my nervous system was regulated with her, right? It felt like I can just be, and that's what I'm trying to say most. God wants us to be able to just be in Him, and He wants us to be able to trust Him with everything, including ourselves and our hearts, because once He has our hearts, He can help us to change our habits. So this practice is something that I'm currently implementing, and something that is going to be able to help you to regulate your nervous system. And it's a short practice, okay? So first, you want to take your phone and set a timer to 5 minutes. 5 minutes, you can even do 2 minutes if you want to. And you just have to sit in the quiet before God. This is being able to usher Him in, right? A lot of us, we are used to going to church and they're having worship music playing. That is a way to usher God in. God inhabits the praises of His people, but He also speaks in silence. So when we want to hear from God, we want to be silent before Him. And this is a practice that can help us to be silent before Him. So we're setting a timer. You can do 2 to 5 minutes. I put 5 minutes, but 2 to 5 minutes, whatever is comfortable for you. And you set the timer and just sit in silence wherever you can. If it's in the bathroom, it's in the bathroom. You just want to have your attention on God, right? And what does that look like? That's just looking like setting your attention, setting your mind to, I'm about to sit down before God. That's it. And just sit there and allow yourself to be calm enough to be open to Him. When you first start this, you're going to have all kind of thoughts in your head. You're going to probably be afraid of being in the silence, because a lot of us have never been able to sit down quietly. A lot of us keep moving because we don't want to deal with things. But if you keep running from things, they're going to keep ruling over you. Okay? So we're sitting down from 2 to 5 minutes, and we're just listening. We're observing our thoughts. Okay? That's all we're doing. We're sitting down before God intentionally. Right? Next, we're going to do this. I'm going to just demonstrate it for us. Next, we're going to take our right hand, put it on our heart. Our left hand, put it on our tummy. We're going to take 3 deep breaths in and out. In through your nose, out through your mouth. We can do one right now. You want to do that 3 times. 3 times. Or you can do it more than 3 times. And after that, you want to go ahead and talk to God. You want to tell him, God, this is why I ran. God knows exactly why you ran. He knows exactly when you ran. But God wants to hear it from you. And it's more about you getting that out. Okay? It's about you releasing that onto somebody who can hold it. Okay? So you're going to tell God exactly how you feel, exactly why you ran, and anything else that's on your heart. You're just pouring it out to him. He says we can cast our cares onto him because he cares for us. Okay? You can either do that out loud, or you can go ahead and write it in a journal. You're just casting your cares onto him, talking to your Father. Okay? And then after that, you are opening your word. And you're not really opening it to a specific place unless you hear God say, go to this place. A lot of the time, I open the Bible, and it's like, I open to a random page because I honestly don't always know where to go. I don't. And if anybody say they always know where to go in the Bible, they are lying, okay? So I'll open to a random page. I'll just flip it open. I don't want to flip it open on my setup, but I'll flip it open. So I'll flip it open, and wherever I land, that's where I read. And a lot of the times, not every time, but a lot of the time, God is right there. And whatever I'm needing in that moment, I'm able to see him in that moment because he's met me right on the page that I randomly flip to, right? And just read. You don't have to read several verses. Just read a couple, okay? And then you might hear him prompt you to go somewhere else. So if you read a verse and it say, like this one, I will open to Esther. It says, the Jews took it on themselves to establish the custom that they and their descendants and all who joined them should, that's why I use my pen, should without fail observe these 2 days every year in the same way prescribed at that time appointed. Now, that didn't speak nothing to me, okay? But you never know, and it does not hurt to try. And you might start hearing verses in your mind, right? Before you even flip to a random page, he might already say, go to Jeremiah 13 and 11. I don't know what that say, but go to Psalm 42 and 1. Go to, Matthew 6 and 33. He might say these things, or he might not say anything. And that's when you go ahead and flip it to a page and just start reading. And you practice this every single day for at least a week. Just practice going back to him. And first starting off with that meditation. Okay? Learning how to actively listen. Learning how to calm yourself. Okay? And if it's too hectic, because I know what it's like to have racing thoughts and stuff, y'all. And you just like, I do not want to be in the quiet because I do not like what I be thinking. I don't like all these thoughts. You can ask God to silence the noise in your mind, or you can even replace it with 5 minutes of worship. Okay? It doesn't have to be perfect. The whole point of this is to allow him to regulate our nervous system and get us back into a place of sitting quietly before him and talking to him, and also allowing him to speak back to us. Okay? So before we close, because I think everything that needed to be said in this video has been said, right? I do want to leave you with this final thought. God isn't mad at you. All right? He is not mad at you. He is not disappointed in you. He is not condemning you. He's not blaming you. He is compassionate toward you. If you don't take anything else from this video, I want you to know that God is compassionate toward you. He is compassionate. Okay? He does understand you. He does want you, but he also does not want to leave you in the way that he found you. He also is telling you to lean not unto your own understanding and submit to him. You will not be able to change anything unless you take on his path. It may seem like things are changing when you go your way, but you're going to ultimately end up in the same predicament that you once was in some form or fashion, okay? And he knew that you was going to walk away. Just like when the prodigal son asked for the fortune. The father already knew it was coming. And the father was like, let me go ahead and start fattening this calf. And God knew you was going to walk away. And he's just like, who about to stop loving her though? Who about to stop pursuing her though? Who about to stop being compassionate toward her though? I'm about to fight for my daughter because my daughter is a part of me. And I love her. And I've always thought that she was precious. And I don't care who got anything to say. Who trying to throw her away. Who trying to talk bad about my daughter. Because she belongs to me. So yeah, they tried it. And baby, they failed. Okay? Daughter, let me tell you something. You've always been his. He says that you've always been his. And he's never thrown you away. Never. So if you've been running from God for whatever reason, like whatever reason it has been, you are not too far gone. You're not. You're not too old. Too much time has not passed. God's promises are still for you. That thing that he told you to do is still on the table. The thing that he gifted you, those gifts, those talents, all of that is still on the table, especially relationship with him, because that's where it starts. Alright? So even in all that you feel, bestie, all that you feel, okay? Even if you're feeling like nervous, you're shaking a little bit, God will help you to see, him in the proper light. Because, resenting him and being mad at him, disappointed, not feeling like reading your Bible, all of this stuff is normal, but it's not normalized to talk about. Anybody who tries to say like, oh, I always want to be with God. I always am, reading my word. I've always wanted to pray. I'm always wanting to fast. That person, I don't know. That I'm not going to say nothing about that person, but I know that I don't. Okay? A lot of time I tell God, I just want to live a normal life. I wish there wouldn't even no rules. Okay? I want to go back to Eden. That's what I want. I don't want this. Okay? I wish we didn't have to deal with all this. I wish you could have just been, your voice in the cool of the day. Or I wish like it wasn't all of this all the time. But this is what we have to work with. And a lot of this stuff, we do bring it on ourselves. And God is here like, I got you anyway. Alright? So, I want you to take at least one step. And I want you to grab that free guide, to go along with this video, the workbook, as well as the freebie that comes with this workbook as well. Because the steps that we walk through to go back to God and practice, stillness with him, I put that in the workbook below too. Not in the workbook, but in a different resource below. So you got two resources below. You got your workbook that goes along with this, video with some reflection questions and all that in there. And even a study on, the Prodigal Son. I remixed it a little bit to be for the daughters, okay? Because that wasn't daughters in there. That was sons, okay? But we remixing it. And also that step-by-step, that 4-step process of, sitting before God in silence, and you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go through it again. But I want you to get those. Alright? And again, my name is Devin Janae, and I will see y'all in the next episode of this series called From Survival to Surrender, okay? And one with like, always remember that you are destined to win because he got up, okay?